Just how big is the world's biggest plant? Hi there, everyone. I'm Jeff, and you are listening to Plain English, where JR and I help you upgrade your English with current events and trending topics. Today's lesson is number 479, so that means you can see the full lesson at plainenglish.com/479. Coming up today, at the end of Monday's lesson, I asked you to imagine the world's largest plant. Did you picture a tall tree? There's a grove of trees in Utah, in the western United States, that was previously thought to be the largest plant in the world. It's a grove, but all the trees are connected by the same underground root system, and it's a single organism. Well, if you were thinking along those lines, you're on the right track. In today's lesson, I'll tell you about a discovery in Australia. It's the world's largest plant, and it's way bigger than anything previously discovered. In the second half of the lesson, I'll show you how to use the phrasal verb look into, and we have a song of the week. Let's get started. Scientists in Australia have discovered the world's largest plant. It belongs to a species of seagrass called Posidonia australis. It's often called ribbonweed. This species grows in white sand in shallow waters in southern Australia. It grows entirely below the surface of the water. Its leaves are bright green and look like ribbons. This ribbon weed forms in large meadows. It's located in Shark Bay off the desert western coast of Australia, about 800 kilometers north of Perth, the nearest city. The area is rich in biodiversity, hosting hundreds of species of fish, birds, and mammals, including dolphins and whales. The world's biggest fish, the whale shark, spends April and May in Shark Bay. The plant discovered in Australia covers an astounding area, 200 square kilometers, the same area as 20,000 football fields. To put this in perspective, this is about the size of Brooklyn, New York, Guadalajara, Mexico, or Milan, Italy. If this plant is so big, you might be asking, how is it that scientists only now discovered it? It turns out that this large area of seagrass has been well known to scientists for a long time. In fact, teams of biologists have been researching and studying it. But these biologists just recently discovered that it was all one plant. The scientists were looking into the genetic diversity of the seagrass in Shark Bay. The information from that study could be useful for the preservation and restoration of seagrass in other parts of the world. So the researchers from the University of Western Australia collected samples from this large area and created a genetic fingerprint consisting of 18,000 different genetic markers. By studying the genetic makeup of the grasses in this area, they could learn more about what genetic traits make the seagrass in this area so resilient. After collecting the samples and making a meticulous comparison among all the 18,000 genetic markers, the researchers found they were all identical. And the only way that could happen is if they were looking at the same organism. What's more, if this is all the same plant, then it would have to be extremely old. When we think of old plants, we usually think of tall trees. But this plant doesn't expand up, it expands out. Plants like this have horizontal roots called rhizomes. The rhizomes stay under the surface and expand outward. Shoots, the vertical parts that poke up above the surface, they can sprout up at various points from the rhizomes. Research into this type of seagrass shows that the rhizomes grow at a pace of 35 centimeters per year. Therefore, researchers calculated that the plant must be about 4,500 years old for it to have grown so large. The plant's longevity is notable because the region has a harsh climate. The water varies in temperature and salinity throughout the year, and the area gets a lot of light, all factors that make it hard for a plant to survive. There are other interesting points about this plant too. It has double the number of chromosomes of a typical plant. Most plants, actually most living things, inherit half their chromosomes from their mother and half from their father. This plant inherited 100% of the chromosomes from each parent. This plant and others of its species play a valuable environmental role. Their deep roots prevent erosion of the coastline. They provide shelter for a lot of maritime organisms, and they sequester carbon at a rate much faster than the rainforest. As scientists look for ways to capture carbon from the atmosphere or to replace the carbon capturing ability of lost rainforests, the study of seagrasses will be important. And now we know that at least this one species can grow very large indeed. Think of everything that has happened in 4,500 years. I mean, there must have been storms, cold years, hot years, droughts, high tides, earthquakes, who knows? And this plant, it's basically grass. We're not even talking about a huge tree. This has been growing and growing 35 more centimeters every year for 4,500 years. Imagine being the researcher who is expecting different genetic profiles, and they all came up identical. If that were me, I'd immediately blame myself. I would have thought that I got the samples confused or I mislabeled something. Well, there's only one thing missing from the scientists' analysis. This plant needs a friendly name. After 4 millennia, we need some friendly nickname for this guy. I don't want to keep calling it this plant. How undignified. Today's English expression is a phrasal verb, and that is look into. This is an informal way of saying to research something or to investigate something. I say informal because you don't use this in very serious situations or when there is a lot of urgency. When you look into something, you're doing it at a comfortable pace. In my house, I have 6 double-pane windows that have moisture trapped between the panes. So the windows look foggy all the time. This happens when the seal on the windows breaks. The gas between the 2 panes leaks out and moisture gets in. So I have to either repair those windows or replace the glass. Well, right now, I'm looking into how much it will cost to make that repair. That means I'm researching it, but it's not like this is my top priority. I made a few calls. One company called me back and gave me an estimate. Nobody else called back yet. Maybe I'll pick up the phone again on Monday and follow up. I'm not in a huge hurry, but I am working on it. So I'm looking into the cost to replace the windows. Perfect example. I'm researching it, but it's not super urgent or important. Earlier today, I was describing the scientific research project in Shark Bay. I said that scientists were looking into the genetic diversity of a meadow of seagrass off the coast of Western Australia. They were researching the genetic diversity of the seagrass. Now, they are professionals. I'm not taking anything away from them. But they didn't realize that they were on the verge of a major scientific discovery. They were going about their work at a normal pace when, wow, they discovered that they were actually looking at the biggest plant in the world. So when we use look into, it can be for something really important or not important at all, but the key is you do it at a comfortable pace. For example, if you're a prison warden and someone calls to say that a violent criminal has just escaped from prison, you don't say, okay, thanks, I'll look into it. No. You don't say that because remember, look into is to do something at a comfortable pace. With a violent criminal on the loose, you'll want to investigate that with quite a bit of urgency. This is a common phrase to use in the workplace. I use it all the time. Someone might send me a message and say, I think there's something strange in this Excel model, but I don't know what it is. And I might respond, okay, I'll look into it and let you know what I find. That means I'll investigate. I'm not going to drop everything, but I will investigate the problem. I'll look into it. You can say, we're looking into a new video conferencing system. That means we're researching a new video conferencing system. You could say, we should look into hiring someone else to help us with all this work. That means you should think about or research what it takes to hire someone else. It's time for JR's Song of the Week. This week, he picked Night Changes by the band One Direction. It's all about how quickly life changes. One of the lines is, "Does it ever drive you crazy just how fast the night changes?" Now, this was certainly not the biggest commercial hit from One Direction, an English-Irish pop band, but it did get good reviews. It's a good sound, too. Night Changes by One Direction is the song that JR chose for us this week. Now, I just realized we had two expressions in a row with look. On Monday, we did look down on, and today we did look into. And that reminds me of a great feature on PlainEnglish.com. On the transcripts, toward the top of the page, there's a list of keywords. JR picks the keywords. So for example, today, he picked look and into as the keywords. This is not the hardest part of JR's job. However, the keywords are important. They are like an index to the site. So if you click on the word look at the top of the transcript, you'll find all the other expressions we've talked about with the word look. So you'll see look forward to, and look on, and look someone in the eye. Now, if you click into, then you'll get 2 pages of expressions to explore with the word into. So that's just another way to explore the site. You do have to be a member of PlainEnglish.com, but this is open to the free members. Now, we've done almost 500 expressions, so this is a great way to explore those older ones that maybe you didn't hear the first time around. Just saying. Anyway, that's all for today's Plain English. You can get the full lesson at plainenglish.com/479. And remember, we'll be back on Monday with a brand new lesson. See you then.